Only me, one person.
Hey, hi, Mrs. CEO. Yeah.
Hi, am I the only one?
Yeah, at the moment, yes. It's fine. No worries. Is Hannah around?
No. Yeah, Hannah's here.
Okay. Now this more for you, but she can listen in if she wants to.
Right. Hannah.
I think there were four registered parents.
Okay.
But we can actually start anytime you're ready. How's Hannah? Which school is Hannah in?
How do you put CHIJ?
Okay.
I'll put the Hannah.
How do you access this?
I will go to the computer.
CHIJ Toa Payoh or Katong?
Toa Payoh.
Oh, okay.
Wait, I just switched to the computer because my handphone is.
Okay.
I just switched over.
Okay.
Yeah, he asked for. Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, she's in CHIJ Toa Payoh.
Yeah. So, targeting to go to the CHIJ secondary?
She's planning to DSA because she plays tennis. So yeah, so she's still deciding.
She plays tennis. Does she know Gwen?
Yeah, they are friends.
Oh, they're friends. Okay. I didn't know that. Okay, so Gwen is also from CHIJ and she's also in tennis because I had a conversation with Gwen's mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she plays tennis
we know
too.
them quite well. We they're from the same school. Actually, Gwen introduced her.
Oh, okay. It's a pity because Gwen is taking foundation.
Foundation?
Foundation science, according to the mom.
Oh no, I don't think so.
That's what the mom told me.
Oh no, I don't think she's taking foundation.
So
I mean, as far as I know.
Okay, let me check again because we talked about this and then
No, I don't think she's in foundation. No.
Because based on ability wise, she's not foundation. She's actually quite good in that sense.
Yeah.
But how's Hannah doing in school? As in, how's her science results and all?
I mean, so far okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's doing okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Maybe she was going for supplementary classes, but she's not in foundation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let me check.
Definitely not in foundation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was quite surprised when she said foundation because her ability was.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can make this interactive since there's only one of you. It's fine, perfectly.
Maybe I should ask Maybe I should ask Sharon to join.
Oh, okay. If she's free, you can check whether she's actually foundation. I had this.
No, I can ask her to join whether she wants to join the.
Yeah.
Can she still join?
Yeah, of course. I think all the parents are invited, so she can just enter anytime she wants. Yeah,
Okay.
if she turns on the app.
I don't know whether she's online.
Okay, no worries. I understand that the graduating classes will be going back earlier to school earlier. So is Hannah returning to school soon?
Actually, we have not heard from the school as in when she has to go back. But they were saying 19, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so maybe next week they will let us know. But so far they haven't said anything yet.
Okay. So has the school issued any letters on the CLT, the common last topics, like to
Yeah.
confirm?
They said the confirm the topics are not in.
How did they send it? Email or something like that?
Parents gateway.
Okay, I
Through
see.
parents gateway.
I see. Okay.
So will that impact the paper?
Of course.
Actually...
Quite. Let me share with you the next screen. Yeah. So this is a very big topic. So if you look at any past year paper, let's say I look at 2017 from this book. The first 3 booklet B questions are actually on environment.
Okay.
So there are 3 already, and then in the MCQ there are probably 1 or 2 more. So we are talking about up to 4 to 5 questions being replaced with other life science topics. Yeah. So okay, this one I've talked. Do you attend? Were you with me the last time I talked about this?
Was it that parent workshop with all the other?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it similar? If it's
No, it's not similar. So I'll just share with you some techniques later. Slightly different. Now, the starting is a bit the same, but that's why I'll just breeze through.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Because of this is the whole overview. And because of the removal of interactions with environment, now the 4 or 5 questions will be replaced by the other life science topics. So my guess is that it will be quite heavy in terms of this one, circulatory, respiratory, reproduction. So far, in the past, they have never really asked about reproduction in animals. Not that many. A lot of plants. So they probably make it up with reproduction in animals, and then and these two are the big topics. Now, because Hannah is in P6, for P6 level, they have to they're expected to integrate information across topics. So when I talk about human systems, they must think of how the digestive, circulatory, and respiratory systems work together to supply energy. Is she hearing this?
Yes.
She can hear. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so at about 12 o'clock today, oh, hello. Hi, Chinese parents, or are you? Okay, anyway, I just go on. At about 12 o'clock today, I uploaded a PDF document. This PDF document is essentially from MOE. It outlines the primary science curriculum in 2014. All right.
You uploaded here, right?
Yeah, in the class in app. So Hannah will be familiar with It's like a pre-lesson task, but it's not a task. I just uploaded a
Oh,
document. So it's not top secret document because you can download this from the MOE website actually. So on pages 21 to 55, the learning outcomes are all outlined. So you can skip the first few pages, which talks about everything else, how they teach and all that, the pedagogy behind science. But 21 to 55 specifically outlines all the learning outcomes. All right, so the last batch of students, so PSLE 2017 was the last batch of the old syllabus. So 2018 onwards will be the new syllabus. Now, a lot of people are not aware of this. A lot of schools are still asking questions that are based on the old syllabus. For example, potential energy, they split it into chemical, gravitational, and elastic potential. So this has been taken away, but it still keeps appearing in school papers. Yeah, so I'm not sure why this is so. The reason I'm sharing is this not it's not so that you bring this information and go to the school. Okay, yeah. So anyway,
oh, so the syllabus changed as well. I thought it was only the number of questions. I mean, the
oh
number of
no,
questions in
okay, this was
21 and
2014. 2014. 14.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So 2018, 19, the effectively the new papers already.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
No, I thought the change was the number of questions in paper one. Paper
no,
two.
certain content was removed so that the teachers can focus more on teaching,
Okay.
more white
Okay.
space, and then slightly less content. And
Okay.
yeah, so certain information has been taken away because it's quite confusing for some pupils or many pupils to manage. So they removed that certain
Okay.
things. Yeah. But you can use this document to I'm not sure if you have children who are younger than P6. If you have,
Oh, no, not me.
yeah.
Yeah.
What about Zhanyi? Are you present with her? Okay. Anyway, if not to be shared for non P6 students, the reason being that a lot of schools still teach certain things that are not within the syllabus, but they have that leeway. They can test, they can teach, and they can test. For example, if I'm in charge of the school's curriculum in primary 3, for example, then I teach life cycles. So I may introduce a learning package which includes parts of an egg. So parts of the egg can still be tested in my school exam because I teach it to everyone. But at PSLE level, all these things, peripherals and all that must take away already. That's why in the lessons the revision lessons that Hannah is attending, we have to share all this information. As I said, these are meant to be shared, not meant for parents to bring to school and question the school. Why are you teaching this? Yeah, okay, that's not the whole intent. Okay, now this is a sample pupil slide. Now at P6, they have to keep on referring to the learning outcomes when they are trying their booklet B questions, especially past PSLE questions. Now, I'm not sure if you have taken a look at all the supply answers given behind. Now, what happens is that MOE can only release the questions to the publishers. So the publishers print the questions, and then the publishers have their own team of educators who will try to answer the questions.
Oh,
Right. So that the answers, MOE will never give out the answers because it is a can of worms. So because if they show the answer, then parents can start asking, why is this the answer? Why not the other one? That kind of things. So they will never but so a lot of the answers given by publishers are not precise. It's not that they are not capable, but they don't know the syllabus content. So they use very high level kind of thinking to answer some of the questions which are not expected of at primary 6 or at the level of a 12-year-old child. Yeah. So have to be very careful. That's why in all our learning, our revision packages, we attempt or we pull out past PSLE questions, we adapt them, change them slightly, and then we attempt them, or we get the students to try them out, and we make them go through the process of recalling the concepts, what they must know, right? Okay, just another sample. Whoops. Okay, let's say under diversity of living things, these are the things that are outlined in the document. These are the things that they need to know. Now, earlier on, this was shared last week in the first revision package. Because adaptations is under environment, so adaptations has been removed from this year's PSLE, but they still can ask on simple adaptations because in P3, they have learned that living things can respond to changes. So living things move around to look for food, to look for mates, to run away from danger and things like that. So these are under behavior of living things. So they still can test the things that they can just ask this question, but they don't put under life science, they can put under physical science, which is more non-living things. For it can be a heat experiment followed by a simple behavior. Why did the animal appear only at certain times of the day? All right. So this is a behavior which still can be tested. What cannot be tested will be the structural adaptations. For example, why does the rabbit have long ears in this hot environment? So that's a structural and adaptation which cannot ask anymore. But behavior can ask because it's responding to changes. So why does the rabbit? Yes, sorry.
In that sense, they still have to take note of this in the adaptations.
No, the whole idea is that when you see questions in the past year papers, don't skip them. Don't say, no need to do, then put them aside. Just still can try to do, okay? Because you don't know when it's applicable, when it's not applicable. But very clearly, structural, anything that has to do with the physical body is not tested. But anything to do with behavior can still be tested. Yeah. Okay. Then whatever they state, for example, this amphibians, birds, fish, so they must know inside out. So anything that MOE states in the document, they included reptiles recently, so they must know, like for example, amphibians. How does a young breathe, and then as it develops, how does an adult breathe? So does a young of the adults resemble the parents? What's the method of reproduction? What kind of outer covering? So all these are information that they have to be at the back of their minds when they go to take the paper. So other than all these 6 groups of animals, don't have to make them learn more than that. Yeah. So we'll share this with the students during the revision packages. So, but you
this
can
will be
This will be covered again during the revision part of the.
Yes.
This is currently covered in the current revision, right?
Yes.
I mean the 4 revision lessons, and then it will be covered again, is it?
Yes. The thing is that you don't have to wait for revision. You can download. I have already shared the document from MOE. You can go and look at page 21 to 55. It's all there. So it's good to have that with you, for your child to have that beside her or him or her, and look at it while doing booklet B questions, so that you can recall exactly what you need to know. So the red text, the red boxes there are the information that I added in a little bit based on what I've observed over the past few years. So we do look at all the questions and all that, how questions are asked, and then we teach our students accordingly, right? And then this is another example for life cycles. For instance, anything that they say, they need to know. So butterfly, beetle, mosquito, grasshopper, so all the way to frog. Now, sometimes, occasionally, they might introduce another organism that is not part of these 7 animals, right? If they do so, they will have to give information on the animal. For example, an ant. So, but they will not call it ants. They will show the picture of an ant. They'll call it animal X or animal M, whatever. And then they will have to describe what the ant does. And then the pupils can have to infer. So it's not outside their knowledge because information is given. And they also have the backing of all this information from butterfly all the way to frog. So they know what kind of differences life cycles have, what kind of stages life cycles have. So they make use of this information, combine with the new information to answer the question. Yeah. Okay, I'll just take you through one example. This was 2018 adapted. So something that Hannah went through a few days ago. Yep. Now, stating relationship between amount of rainfall and number of dengue cases. Now, this is making sense of information from the graph to put it into words. Okay, pupils are very familiar with this kind of question. State relationship between this and that. So that one, not a problem. Most of them can do it. Okay, and the part is explain why this relationship is observed. Now the students, if they think about the documents, what is outlined, they just have to know about the basic essential points about life cycle. So where does mosquito lay eggs, for example, they must know. So you just have to connect stagnant water, increased rainfall to make the connection, right? So the superlatives, like more places to lay their eggs. For reproduction, reproduction is a word they learn in P5, and then to spread the fever. So this it's not beyond them. It looks like a lot of information to write, but most students can get this 1 mark. But this second mark is a bit iffy because they have to make the connection. So get your child or to go through the process of looking at the expected outcomes, the learning outcomes, and trying to apply it to the question, right? So it's Zhan Yi or Zhan Yi's parent. If you need to comment, you can unmute yourself, or you can also type in the chat box. The chat box is on your right. You can type a question. So because there are only 2 of you, so we'll make this very interactive. Anytime you have a question, you can just come in to ask. Right, thanks. All right. So now, number of dengue cases takes about 3 to 4 weeks to change after the amount of rainfall changes. Dengue fever takes 2 weeks to develop after a person has been bitten. So this is one of the reasons why there is I was explaining to the children, there is a time lag from the change in rainfall, then 3 to 4 weeks later, there's a change in the dengue cases. So partly because dengue fever takes 2 weeks. So 2 weeks of the 3 to 4 weeks is already given to them. So give another reason why the number of dengue cases does not change immediately after the rainfall. Now, all right, one of the publishers, I would say, one of the publishers mentioned, supplied the answer as after biting, someone who is infected with dengue fever, the mosquito becomes ineffective. Now the thing is that this is really beyond. Now even me as a science teacher, I also don't know this kind of information. How does the dengue mosquito become ineffective? I didn't know that after biting someone, it becomes ineffective for a period of time, and for how long, I don't know. So as I said, a lot of these answers from the publishers are crafted by people with perhaps they have done some research. They have also they come from higher education background, but they don't know the primary school syllabus. So they craft answers. The key points I'm trying to make is don't panic. Don't go and make your child learn, hey, dengue fever, dengue mosquito after biting someone becomes ineffective. Memorize this information. So don't have to know, because everything that they need to know, they have already learned it in school. So there's no new information like such being mosquito becoming ineffective after biting someone. So cannot. So they have to make use of information they know. So they go back to thinking about from the egg to the larva to the pupa to the adult. It takes time. It takes time to develop. So that's why there is a delay of another 1 to 2 weeks after. So questions like that, it is not beyond them. They know it. It's just at the back of the mind. They just have to pull it out, right? So right, Hannah.
What do you pray?
Okay, and then this part is actually pertaining to Singapore. Several estates in Singapore, male mosquitoes carrying a certain bacteria mates are released to the environment, and because of this bacteria, the female mosquitoes lay eggs that do not hatch. So in that 1 year, the male mosquitoes carrying bacteria were released, and then the number of dengue cases decreased. So explain why. Now, one of the key things that we keep reminding our students, don't repeat information from the question. Now, 9 out of 10 students will start with here. Will write this out. So they say when a male mosquito that carries bacteria W mates with female mosquito, the eggs do not hatch. So when they write this information, let's say there are 2 lines there given to them, and they have already filled out 1.5 lines with this information here, and then it gives them the false impression that, hey, I'm nearly there. I just need to write a little bit more to explain. So to get that 1 mark, the truth is that whatever you repeat here does not give you any mark. So they have to zoom straight into the answer without repeating any information. They don't also have to make any conclusion. Conclusion, for example, therefore the number of dengue cases in the estate decreased. So that is a conclusion, no need to state. We are not making an argument. The information is provided. The conclusion is also provided, so you just have to explain. So a suggested answer, higher proportion of eggs that were laid did not hatch. And when the eggs do not hatch, there will be fewer or less female mosquitoes to bite humans. So zoom straight to the answer. Avoid this. I keep repeating to the students. Sorry, I repeat here many times. Avoid using information from the question that's provided. Okay. All right. Then I have this framework, or rather at TCHER we use this framework to guide pupils, but we don't share it with pupils, not because we want to withhold information, but because it's very heavy, quite heavily loaded kind of approach. Now, a lot of students are familiar with this CER approach, claim, evidence, reasoning. Some schools use it, some tuition centers use it, And for me personally, I like it because it is quite a friendly framework. Claim, for example, setup A will have more water than B. Or another claim, material C is the best, is most suitable. Then evidence. Evidence means I have to go and look for information from the question. It can be in the question stem, it can be in a table, it can be a graph. And then reasoning is to make use of the evidence to explain my claim. All right. So our crack framework is a little bit more than this, because other than claim, sometimes we have to add in a choice. Choice, for example, which material A, B, or C is the best, is the most suited. So they make a choice. Criterion, for example, suggests one change to the setup such that there will be more water collected. So that is a criteria. I trying to fulfill something. So C can, we added this two more other things. Now, the evidence and reasoning part is under analysis here. So under evidence and reasoning, we put it under analysis and explanation. So what the three things that we put in will be recollection, correctness, and keywords. That's why we have the crack approach. Okay, let me share what the components are. Under R, crack, the recollection. Now this is a past PSLE question. Essentially, there's this ride at an amusement park that cannot take kids that are too heavy. So kids who are too heavy step on this platform, and then the bulb will light up. Once the bulb lights up, they cannot take the ride because they have exceeded a certain weight. So an engineer said that the design was not safe. So it will be safer if the light bulb lighted when a child who is of acceptable mass stood on it. So give a reason why the design was not safe. So a lot of people look at this question for that particular year and they have no clue what to do. And then also this is the answer provided by one of the publishers. The two springs may compress unequally. So they're talking about this spring here and this spring here, causing the child to fall. Now this is not there's no concept to this, because does a child need to learn science from P3 all the way to P6 to be able to say that the spring will compress unequally and this person is going to fall because of unequal compression? Now it's more like a common sense kind of response. So there is no concept behind it. That's why this answer cannot be accepted, right? So they have to recall. P5, very simple concepts in electrical systems.
Yeah, they don't even think of it.
Yeah, a bulb can fuse when the filament melts or breaks, or when it's overused, whatever. Yeah, so that's all. So for that particular year, some kids just write the bulb will fuse, and they got that 1 mark. This is a 1 mark question. Sorry, 1 mark. So the scientifically correct response makes use of concepts that they have learned. If the bulb fuses, it will not light up when a child of acceptable mass stands on the platform. So these extra words I added in to make it more appealing in terms of language. But for that particular year, this would have been enough to get that 1 mark. Now, some books also went further to suggest that instead of having compression springs, they should use extension springs. Extension springs are things like that. Hello, Sharon. Yeah. So now the suggestion given by the publishers to use extension springs is not an explanation. So you see, you have to give a reason why it was not safe. it did not ask you to suggest a change to the whole setup. So that was not really answering that question, right? Okay, so it's always important to recall the concepts. So R, I've covered R. Now we are moving on to C. C is the, have I answered the question correctly? The correctness of the question, the answer, sorry. So there's this question, another PSLE question, on when a balloon is released, it did not fly in a straight line. So if there was no wind in the room, explain why the balloon did not fly in a straight line. Now, almost half of the cohort that particular year had the answer, gravity acted on the balloon and pull it down, whatever. So if you remember C, C is correctness of response. If I say gravity acted on the balloon, have I answered the question? Yes, I've answered the question for this part, but I did not answer the question for this part here. So if a gravity acts on the balloon, it must go down. It cannot go upwards in a different straight line. So the whole thing, again, back to R, recall what they have learned. Okay, sorry, correctness. It only answers why the balloon flew down. So the whole process, I have to recall under R, recall. This is forces 101, very basic. The very first lesson, a force is a push or a pull. So they have to differentiate. A force is a push, not a pull. In this case, it's a push. So effects of forces, what can a force do? A force can change the direction of motion. So they just have to put these two things they have learned and answer this question. Air coming out of the balloon, push it in different directions. So that is all that was needed. So they have to go through this process of recollecting and then checking for correctness of response. All right, Sharon, you just joined us. I'm sharing with everyone else the CRACK framework that we use. CRACK is approach that we use for open-ended questions to craft responses, right? Yep. And then the last component of CRACK is the K component, which is keywords. Have I included all the keywords? So about this boy who came out from the swimming pool, and then there were a lot of fans blowing around him, and the fans blowing on him caused him to feel colder. So explain why the boy felt colder when a strong wind blew. Gwen, do you want to try this? No. Okay. This is a response. The strong wind increased the rate of evaporation from his body. Water on his body evaporated and caused him to feel colder. Now, water cycle is a very big topic. There are a lot of keywords that I must include or must be included in a response. So in this response, there are three sets or three phrases that are missing. All right. So if the child knows and to check for the keywords, then the child will know certain things are missing. For example, evaporation. When I say evaporation, I must always say evaporation of what? It must be water. All right. So in this case, it's water droplets on his body. And then I did not explain colder here. I need to have a certain thing to explain why colder. Okay. Before stating evaporation, pupils must state gain heat first. So gain heat, evaporated to form water vapor. So whole process of evaporation is evaporation of water. To evaporate, water must gain heat and to form water vapor. So all these keywords must be included. So again, CRACK framework is not reinventing the wheel. It's making use of the commonly used CER approach, claim evidence reasoning approach, and we put in three more components, which is after some time, hopefully the pupils can use it automatically, or like autopilot mode. I must recall the concepts first. Then after finish writing my answer, I need to check my answer. Am I answering the question? And have I included the keywords? If I talk about magnets, can I just say the two magnets repel? Not enough. I must say the light poles were facing and then they repel. So all this must be included. So they know. Just that sometimes they forget, right? Okay, as I said, this the crack framework generally we do not share with pupils because it's a very heavy approach to use. Now there are 12 open-ended questions in booklet B. So in these 12 questions, there will be part A, part B, part C. So if every question I must use a crack approach, I think I will give up after 2 questions. As an adult, I will stop doing. I don't want to do anymore. So if I think from a child's perspective, it's so tedious. I don't want to use it. So there are other frameworks that we share with pupils, answer templates. Okay. Now, the crack framework is to pick the difficult fruits. We call it those fruits are right at the top of the tree. Now, there are also low-lying fruits here that is best used by structured approach. Okay, the structured approaches are like explaining fair test, stating aim, inferring relationships, and all that. Okay, these are some of the templates. This one they're very familiar with, inferring relationship. So this one, stating aim, we teach our students also. But I must tell you that at PSLE, they do not ask about aim. Right? So I have been looking through the last 5-6 years of PSLE book papers. The reason why they don't ask aim, because aim is very subjective, very hard to mark. So I can show you 2 pots of plant and show you some water and ask what's the aim. So you don't know what the student is thinking, a child is thinking. The child can come up with a right answer that is totally different from what is expected, right? So that's why it's very hard to mark. They will take away stating aim, or rather they have taken away this for the last don't know how many years already. But a lot of schools are still testing this, so we still have to teach so that they can do well in the school papers. Now, inferring relationship, for example, the more amount of sunlight the plant receives, the greater the number of new leaves it grows. This is a relationship question. But over the last 2 years, it has been increasingly difficult. So to get that 1 mark now, sometimes there are two trends. For example, from this temperature to this temperature is an upward trend, and then after that is a flat trend or a downward trend. So they must start looking for this kind of patterns now. So I would think that PSLE is getting a little bit more difficult. They don't give the marks so easily. Used to be just 1 mark, one trend, identify 1 relationship. Now you have to identify 2 relationships to get 1 mark. That's what I see in the last 2 years. Okay. Now this is a sample slide on heat experiment. Essentially, is to show the pupil. Now this is the template for fair test. Now this experiment is related to the amount of heat in different volumes of water. So if the more hot water I use, the more cooked an egg will be, right? So now adults, we all know this because we cook, we know, and we go to the coffee shop when we order soft-boiled eggs. So we know that we need to put the eggs for a certain time and we need to have more water. But a lot of kids don't know this. Now, so the one that is put in less water is less cooked. The one that's put in more water is more cooked. and the water is actually the same temperature. So the fair test question, which we get our students to practice, how did using eggs of the same size ensure that a fair test was carried out?
The one with the
Okay, Gwen or Hannah, do you want to try telling us the answer?
I can tell. It's on already. Say lah.
The size of the
Okay,
egg. Okay.
yes, great, yeah. Can I put you on stage? Yeah.
The size of the egg affects the how cooked or uncooked the egg is.
Excellent. Okay. So now before this, I think a lot of pupils will say things like, in a fair test, there should only be one variable change. And in this test, the volume of water, hot water, was already changed. So the egg must be the same size. So they go through the whole process of explaining the whole fair test, which is not necessary. So we get our pupils to go through, identify first of all, this is not written down, this is at the back of the mind. What is kept the same? Size of eggs given to you. What is measured? In this case, how cooked the eggs were, right? So the template that we share is the whats will affect the whats. So we just have to pull the words there and put it down there. Size of eggs will affect how well they're cooked. So it's a very simple thing that they can use. For example, how did conducting an experiment in a dark room ensure that Hannah has carried out a fair test? Something like that. So I make use of this structure. The presence of light will affect the darkness of the shadow, for example. Okay, I don't know what the experiment is. So I make use of the same structure to answer the fair test kind of question. Now, some schools train their students quite well. I've seen it. Okay, but most schools don't use this approach. Now, there's also this consequence approach that some schools or enrichment centers teach. And consequence approach is, for example, if I apply it to this question, will be, if I don't use eggs of the same size, then this will happen. So there's a consequence kind of approach, which is actually theoretically incorrect. All right. So I cannot say, if the eggs are not the same size, then it's not a fair test, and I explain. So that's not correct. I always ask pupils this. Let's say if I ask you, why do you go to school? So the correct answer will be, I go to school because I want to learn, because I want to meet my friends, something. So there is a positive kind of answer. So if the question posed again, why do you go to school? If they were to answer something like, if I don't go to school, I cannot find a job. So that is a consequence answer, which is not correct, not answering the question, because I asked why you went to school. I didn't ask what will happen to you if you don't go to school, right? So we have to get them to think, recalibrate their way of thinking. Okay, a lot of pupils face this problem, inertia. When they see a booklet B question, for example, they lack the confidence. And then sometimes when I send out the chat box, some pupils put IDK. They look at the question, they don't even want to try, they put IDK straight away. Or they bulldoze into the question. This is the other extreme. The bulldoze, that means straight away they use information, they copy the information from the question and start answering. So they feel that they have typed a lot already. So that is not the correct way. Now, use of a lot of incorrect scientific words and concepts. Incorrect scientific words, like for example, under P5 reproduction, why did the insects go to the flower? So some pupils write things like, the flower is beautiful. Now, beautiful is not a scientific word. Beautiful is a subjective word. So they have to use words that are scientific. For example, they are attracted to the large, bright petals. So the word is attracted, not because the flower is beautiful to them, because you don't know what the insect is thinking, whether it's beautiful to the insect or not. All right. So a lot of them fall into the trap of using their own words to describe. So that is one way. So if you see subjective words that your child uses in the answer, just mark them out. Yeah. So these are some techniques that I've already shared. Like first of all, you need to always remember the concept. Then you have to apply the concept to the specific question. And this one means specific question I must use word from the question. So if I say air can be compressed, or air can be compressed, I must say air where? Air in the cup is compressed. So I must identify the cup. And these are not new words, because these are all words that are provided to them in the question itself. And Hannah and Gwen are also constantly reminded that always use short sentences. This is not a language test. They are not required to synthesize all the information. So the problem is when they synthesize too much information, they miss out parts. So if I have long sentence, then if I can think through in terms of like a procedure, step 1 is this, step 2 is this, step 3 is this. So I use short phrases. It doesn't even have to be a complete sentence. So for example, organism B, full stop. It's an incomplete sentence, but it's correct. Organism B has more than Q, full stop. Then I explain. So I make use of 3 short sentences or phrases to explain something long. But imagine if I were to try to synthesize all these into one sentence, I will miss out information here and there. So it's always good to use short sentences. Now, make use of acronyms to remember a lot of information. For example, types of under energy conversion. What is the acronym that you use? Gwen, do you remember? Hannah, do you remember? Hannah, teacher Jacqueline, we have taught you. Knowledge something?
Knowledge help.
Yes, excellent. So acronyms like that, huh? So of course you don't. So when they see the conversion box, what converted to what? Sorry, I can't draw converted to what? So they see all these boxes. So K, they know kinetic, heat, electrical, light, potential, and sound. So they have to, with this at the back of their mind, they know the whole list is exhaustive. Everything is there already. So I just have to find the correct one to go into the correct box, whichever it is. Yeah. So make use of acronyms. We share a lot of acronyms also in our classes. And then this one I've already shared. Don't repeat information that is provided, because it gives pupils a false sense of security. It makes pupils feel that, hey, I've already written a lot. I'm almost there. I just write 2 or 3 more words to get that 1 mark, and then they will not get the 1 mark. And also no need to make conclusion that is already given to you. Like, why will A have more water than B? So I don't have to conclude, therefore A will have more water than B. So that is conclusion that is given to me, so I don't repeat that. Okay, essentially, this part I've really more or less shared all the tips. So this is something that is very general. Now, pupils enjoy science because they experience it in their daily lives. And on the topic of that has been removed, interactions within the environment, that one is I do hope that the schools will continue to teach them because it is a conclusive, like the pinnacle of the P6 primary school science education. Because as I said, I shared in the workshop earlier, before that is about the textbook and the real world, the textbook and real world. When you learn about the environment, it becomes about the textbook, the real world, and me. What can I do to the environment? So a lot of pupils go through a transformational way of thinking after going through the topic on interactions within the environment. I give you an example. My nephew, he's in the university now, but before that, when he went through the topic of environment, he started changing in his perspective about carbon emissions, about greenhouse effects, and things like that. So he stopped eating beef because beef contributes a lot to the amount of carbon emissions to grow. So he did not become a vegan, but he still continued to eat chicken, pork, fish, and all kinds of meat. Just that beef, because beef requires large. Okay, you can read about it. The to rear cows and all that actually results in a lot of carbon emissions. So that was one. So now he's studying to become a marine biologist because he wants to do something about the sea turtles. So these are very important part of education, the environment. So I sincerely hope, because as an enrichment center, we don't really go through it, but I do hope the schools will continue doing that. So most pupils dislike science after a while because I know primary 3 they like science because suddenly the teacher takes them out to the eco garden, pick up leaves, and then bring the leaves back to the classroom and then start drawing the leaves. So it's very enjoyable. And then primary 5, suddenly the marks start dipping, right? Because they cannot get that kind of marks that they used to achieve at P3. P3 has to, I must say that the P3 test assessment is fairly simple because it is a lot of bite size. That means not complete kind of testing. So part here a little bit. I teach one topic, then I test you. I teach you another topic, then I test you. And then not a lot of writing is needed. For example, digestive system. So they just draw an arrow and say, this is the mouth. Another arrow, this is the gullet. So they just have to remember how to spell all these things. So it's very simple. But now, and then last year at P5, it became very difficult because they must write 2-3 sentences just to get 1 or 2 marks. And that 1 or 2 marks is not even confirmed. So that's why they start getting less and less confidence. Okay, so my suggestions, as I mentioned earlier, is try not to look at scores. Check their understanding in conversations. I'm not sure if you take walks and all that, so you can take walks and look at I don't know. My example was, if you see an angsana fruit, just pick it up and talk about the wing-like structure, for example. Yeah, and then phenomenon around us, even the COVID virus can be something that you can talk about. You can bring up because this is a microscopic microorganism. How does it survive and things like that? So things that are natural. A lot of toys can be used to teach potential energy, energy and forces also. So, but parents just need you to do a little bit more homework to look through the textbook to see what is being tested and what is not being tested. So don't have to confuse them with information that is way beyond a P6 level, right? So I don't know if Andrew has mentioned this, but where to design a 1 hour lesson, it takes 1 to 2 days, sometimes 2 days even. So a lot of thought go behind the whole lesson preparation. So what is lacking is the hands-on activity, right? So being online, we cannot bring students to the laboratories and all that, but we do take virtual tours here and there, and then we do show short videos and then infer. So we still make zoom in on the skills that they have to acquire, making hypotheses to generate possibilities, observation, analyze, and then to communicate the findings as in to write out what they have observed. Yeah. And then in terms of lesson delivery, there's always constant interaction. Now, I have been in MOE schools before, and I have taught even GP students. Now, the main thing about students is that when I prepare a lesson package online, how do I capture the students' attention for that 1 hour? How do I make sure that the student sits there? Like I give you an example. My son is year 2 NUS higher. HBL, the teacher is talking about biology, and then he's doing his homework, his worksheet on biology. But then when I went to look at his screen, he was playing a game with his friend. His group of friends. So he has 2 friends from Raffles and 2 friends from NUS High. They were actually online playing games, while at the same time multitasking, listening to the teacher talking about bio and then doing his worksheet on bio. So how the main thing is that how do we capture students' attention to make them sit with us for that 1 hour and to get their attention. Of course, it's not foolproof. The students still can be using the phone and texting or doing something else, but we cannot help it. But we try our best to engage them, right? So there's constant interaction. Keep them on the toes. Like I keep on asking questions, getting them to type in the chat box until they start spamming. They have to stop the chat box, things like that. And then we try to get the students to learn on their own, to be more responsible for their learning. Yeah. So we make use of a lot of experiments. The time-lapse experiment to show them the results. Real-life situations. In this case, it is I need to wear a shirt the next day. How do I get it dry? Which situation will help me to dry the shirt most quickly? And then we relate this to the rates of evaporation. Okay, and then cell systems. Now, cells is a very difficult topic because cells, we don't see cells, and then the students look at the cells in the textbook. It's so colorful, but when they go to the science lab, it becomes a anticlimax. Very disappointing because I cannot even see anything when I put my eyes through the microscope. So I have no idea whether I saw the cells or did not see the cells. So we try to engage them also by using analogies like this. And then the ClassIn app has a lot of tools that we can get them to write, draw, annotate. Yeah, and then this is the last slide. Essentially, at the start of every topic, we show them the end goal. These are the questions tested at PSLE. So after this series of lessons, you must be able to answer these questions. So we show them what they have to achieve. Then along the way, we show them how, and then we constantly guide them along the way. Right? Okay, I think that I have. Is that the end? Yeah. That's all I have. Yep. Do you have any questions that I can address? I think Sharon had to go, right? Yeah. So parents, any questions? Yeah. No worries. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, no questions? Oh, so clear?
Yeah, I think yeah. So that document I can just get it at is it attached to this?
Yes. This lesson. This parent workshop. Ask Hannah. She's behind. Go and download that. Hannah, go to the task, pre-lesson task, and download that. Open up that PDF document. Okay. Now, if you can't manage to download it, you can just Google MOE Primary Science Syllabus and then go to the website and download. It's the same document essentially. And anyway, by this Friday, Hannah will have everything, because this week, coming week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday is lesson 2, 3, and 4 of the revision. So she will have all the notes.
Hey, I want to see his face.
Stop.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I quit?
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye, Hannah.
No, you need to close this one.
Okay, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
We found
You're
the
welcome.
document. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank